Aaron. Now I know everyone's going to be tweeting about this, and they're going to be going to Facebook and YouTube, and we'll see what goes viral. I asked you before, were you ready to jump in? Well, we're almost to the point where we're going to be finishing up, so you will be jumping in. But before we do, we have another speaker. Joe Calomino has worked in the field of government affairs and state politics for 18 years. During his career, he has worked as a government liaison for various state constitutional offices and as a political strategist to state and local officials, and as a grassroots organizer and activist. And currently, he is the state director for the Illinois chapter of Americans for Prosperity. Americans for Prosperity is one of the premier grassroots citizens lobbyist organizations in the country. Americans for Prosperity is a citizen watchdog organization focused on promoting the free market. Issues such as budget reform, lower taxes, government transparency, and accountability. He was part of the team that worked on the Illinois Accountability Act, which is currently being debated in the state legislature right now. Please join me as we welcome Joe Calomino.
I appreciate it. I'd like to just make one correction. That Illinois Accountability Act was passed this year thanks to our efforts of our grassroots organizations. So for the first time in Illinois, we have an online searchable website that starts to show us where the spending is. Certainly not all the spending, but it was the first time effort. So we're pretty proud of that, as well as many other efforts that we've had throughout the year. Some of our grassroots efforts and lobbyist efforts have led to testimony in committees throughout the state, specifically on committees on budget reform and accountability. In fact, one of our testimonies led to, one of our efforts was part of the impeachment trial of Governor Blagojevich. We had sued Governor Blagojevich and Senator Emo Jones for violation of the Freedom of Information Act, and that led to our passage of our bill, frankly. So we're pretty excited about some of the things we've been able to accomplish. But today, hopefully this works and I don't have to move around too much. Good.
Yep.
Go the other way.
Okay, guys, go back. You guys could flip and I'll just give you the hand signal like this. Today, Tony's asked me to talk about two topics: a little bit about Americans for Prosperity, but more importantly, about some political realities here in the state of Illinois, and kind of give you an idea what the landscape in Illinois looks like. As much as we have a great movement, Tea Party activists, conservative-minded people, we still have a lot of work ahead of us, and I want to be able to explain to you how we got to where we are today in regards to the GOP, as well as the political dynamics here in Illinois, and how much work we have to take our state back. It's great energy we have right now, but we have to get our feet on the ground. We have to do some hard work. I think the day of rallies are important, but at the end of the day, we need to get onto the street, we need to join campaigns, and we need to get engaged in true grassroots efforts. The one thing that the Democrats do better than we do is hit the street, and we have to find a way to get to the street. And I think later on we'll talk about what Americans for Prosperity is doing on behalf of that effort, specifically here in Lake County in the 10th Congressional District. But I'm going to move it over here because I can't see the screen. Well, as Marcia said, we're a grassroots organization. We're a national group. We have a little over 1.2 million members in the state of Illinois. The Illinois chapter of Americans for Prosperity here started in August of 2006. I'm happy to say we have a little over 30,000 members. We go out throughout the state holding town hall meetings. I know, Joanne, you were part of our town hall meetings. Grassroots seminars, training seminars, education forums. Our real goal is to help to educate and empower citizens to take back their government and to hold their elected officials accountable for how they're spending our tax dollars, both sides of the aisle. Frankly, we've gotten more press at holding Republicans accountable than we do for Democrats. I've always said Democrats down deep aren't really lying to us. They tell you they're going to raise taxes. They tell you they're going to grow the size of the government. They may tell you in different ways, but they're pretty honest about it. We've had problems in Illinois with the Republican Party for quite some time because our politicians on the Republican side haven't necessarily been true to their fiscal ideology. So it's very important. But I could talk all day about Americans for Prosperity and the great things we've done, but I really want to do is drill down to the realities of politics in Illinois. It's very clear if you read that, and hopefully you could read that. For many years, since quite frankly 1994, the Republican Party has been out to lunch. And if you change the slide, we'll talk about it. You know what? I'm going to take your microphone. All right, real quick, if you guys remember in 1994, the Republican Party controlled everything. We had all the constitutional offices. We had both chambers of the General Assembly. We were a very powerful organization back then. In fact, if you look back behind that, 26 years we had the governor's mansion. We had it because we had a fairly fiscal, responsible form of government in Illinois. In 1994, combined with the national movement, the Contract with America, we really scooped. We did a great job here in Illinois to take over government. And at that time, we thought we were going to really move the state forward. Unfortunately, we didn't. Not at all. In fact, in 2 years, after the first 2 years, in 1996, we lost the House of Representatives. And from that point on through to 2004, we lost every seat possible to where we are today. The Supreme Court, the constitutional offices, and the General Assembly is controlled by the Democratic organizations. And it's really important for me for this presentation to show you the numbers so you understand the fight we have ahead of us. After 16 years of basically not doing much, we have a lot of work to do. And the only chance we really have is with people like you, because our numbers would dictate in a normal election cycle, we have no chance to win a statewide election. The numbers I'm going to talk about is from 1994, well, actually from 1976 to 2006. Right, and later on we'll talk about 94 through 2006. And the reason we picked those years are because those are the years of gubernatorial elections like we have this time. It's not a presidential election, we have an off-year election with a gubernatorial election. These numbers are very important for you to understand. As the Republican Party was losing votes, and we started in 1994, the Democrats are very smart. They start ramping up their numbers in Chicago. Ramping up numbers, incredible amount of numbers. And if you can see this graph, and it's hard to tell here, but this graph basically shows, I can't even see it, that the last time we won a governor's election was George Ryan. We had 33% of the Chicago vote on average. That was about the number to vote. From that point on, no statewide gubernatorial candidate in Illinois has even reached that figure. In fact, the best we got, I believe, was 17%. If you look at the gap of that number, Chicago alone, that's a 400 to 600,000, depending on voter turnout, a 400 to 600,000 vote deficit before we get out of Chicago. Now, in the past, we were able to mitigate those votes because the collar counties, Cook County, suburbs, and downstate produce great numbers, and we'll show this graph to you a little bit. But understand how difficult, how everyone talks about Chicago running the state. Well, they actually do, and it's because of their votes, more so than their politicians, and change that. So as I was saying before, over the years, from 1976 to 2006, Republicans enjoyed great numbers in suburban Cook County for a long period of time until we got to around 1994. If you watch this blue line, basically what it says in 1994, we start switching numbers, and you can start to see the rise of the Democratic numbers to where now they have surpassed Republican numbers. And I wish we could show those numbers to you better, but if I can't see them, I can't talk about the percentages. But what that shows us is, and if you look at the history of the Republican Party, the south suburbs initially started to lose votes to migration, to housing changes, and Democrats started to fill the south suburbs of Cook County. They built themselves up to mid-Cook County, like areas like Cicero, Lyons Township, Proviso Township, and then into now Schaumburg, Hanover Park, areas that are just border to Lake County, where the Democrats are now controlling that entire region. So if you add Chicago, 400, 600,000 additional votes, and the fact that the last time we won a governor's race was George Ryan with 48% of the Cook County vote, start looking at your numbers. If we are losing Chicago and Cook County, it puts so much stress on the suburbs, the collar counties, and so much stress on downstate to perform, we have very little opportunity to be successful statewide, especially when we have a party brand that has been, for all practical purposes, destroyed because we haven't stuck to our conservative fiscal issues. We spend just as much as the Democrats do. At least we have. So if we turn that, and now we look at what used to be, we call it God's country, the collar counties. Lake County, for example, McHenry County, Kane County, Kendall County, Will County, those were our safe havens. Again, I'll go back to the last time we won a governor's election. We had 33% of the vote in Chicago, 48 to 52% of the vote in Cook County. And we experienced in the collar counties, Lake County, McHenry, Kendall, Kane, on average, 56% of the vote. If you look at the last election cycles today, you start seeing that starting to shrink. And in fact, we're almost in a statistical tie, a cumulative number in the collar counties with the Democratic vote. Again, go back to Chicago, go to Cook County, and now go to the collar counties. Everything up north of I-80, we have lost our margin for victory for statewide elections. There's a lot of reasons for that. Poor Republican leadership, a lack of identity.